Okay, let's just jump right in. You hear the name Jeffrey Epstein, and, well, the air just kind of leaves the room, doesn't
It
it?
really does. It's become
Yeah.
the radioactive topic of our time.
But lately, the whole conversation has taken
Mm.
this turn. It's not just about the crimes we know about, the trafficking, the horrible abuse.
No, it's about the whispers, the rumors.
Specifically, the one that says his inner circle wasn't just a group of corrupt billionaires, but an actual cabal, a group of devil worshippers.
Sacrificing children to an ancient deity named Baal.
Or Moloch, right, depending on which corner of the internet you're on.
Exactly. And it's this incredibly dark, persistent rumor. People point to that strange temple on his private island.
The one with the blue and white stripes and the golden dome. Yeah.
And they say, see, there it is. That's the proof. That's where the rituals happen.
That image is just burned into everyone's mind. And look, we're going to get into that today because it didn't come from nowhere. But our mission here is to pivot from that to something, honestly, far more terrifying.
The hard, documented facts.
Exactly. Because the real story isn't about demons.
It's not supernatural. It's about the intersection of absolute power, limitless money, and a dark network that facilitated the systemic trafficking of underage girls. Right under the nose of the law.
Right. So we need to strip away the fantasy to see the machinery underneath. Because when you look at how this whole thing actually worked, it's not a horror movie.
It's a logistics operation. And to understand that machinery, you have to start with the man himself, the anomaly, Jeffrey Epstein.
This is where it gets so baffling. I mean, you look at his resume on paper, it makes absolutely no sense. He wasn't born into some powerful family.
Not at all. He wasn't a Rockefeller or a tech genius. He started his career as a math teacher.
A math teacher.
Yeah.
At the Dalton School in Manhattan.
That's the humble beginning. He didn't even have a college degree at the time.
And somehow he goes from that, from grading quizzes to having the private numbers of presidents of royalty of Silicon Valley titans. How does that leap even happen?
Well, it's more than just charm, it's utility. He moved into high finance, Bear Stearns, then started his own firm, but he wasn't your typical money manager.
Right, he wasn't trying to get you a 10% return on your 401k.
No. He was a financial advisor for the, quote, filthy rich. And we need to be really specific about what that means. We're talking about the 0.01%.
The kind of wealth that lives in offshore accounts, shell companies.
The world of wealth defense. And here's the key insight. When you handle the private, often gray area fortunes for the most powerful people on Earth, you stop being just an employee.
You become a vault.
You become an asset. You know where the bodies are buried, financially speaking. You know who's dodging taxes, who's moving money to mistresses. You know the secrets.
That makes you indispensable.
And protected. An asset. It's a chilling way to put it, but that's what he was.
And he used that status to build this hub of power. That mansion in Manhattan.
Which was basically gifted to him by Les Wexner, the billionaire behind Victoria's Secret, another huge anomaly, who just gives a Manhattan mansion to their financial advisor.
Exactly. And he used that house for these parties. But from everything I've read, they weren't like Hollywood red carpet events.
No. These were black box events, close circles. The guest list was a who's who of global influence.
Yeah.
CEOs, media moguls, high-ranking politicians.
So if you were there, you were in.
You were in. It was a networking hub for the untouchables.
And we have to talk about the names, because they are not small names. Let's start with the royals. Prince Andrew.
This is one of the biggest connections because of the fallout. In 2021, Virginia Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit against him in New York.
And she alleged she was trafficked by Epstein and forced into sexual encounters with the prince.
And she was under 17 at the time.
17?
Yes. And there's that infamous photo, isn't there? Prince Andrew with his arm around her and Ghislaine Maxwell right there in the background, smiling.
It looks so casual. That's the scariest part. It looks like a normal photo.
But the context is horrific. He eventually settled that lawsuit for millions, though he admitted no liability. His reputation, though, was just destroyed.
Then you have the political heavyweights. Donald Trump.
Right, those old photos and videos of them partying together in the 90s, they were part of the same New York social scene.
There's that quote from 2002 where he called Epstein a terrific guy.
And then added that Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
Yikes. That is a giant red flag in hindsight.
A massive one. Now, to be fair to the timeline, they reportedly had a falling out later over a real estate deal, and Trump has since tried to distance himself. But that proximity was there.
And then on the other side of the aisle, you have Bill Clinton.
whose name appears multiple times on the flight logs for the Lolita Express.
Epstein's private jet.
Yep. Now, Clinton has always denied any knowledge of the crimes, and he's never been accused of abuse himself.
Yeah.
But his presence on those flights is just documented fact.
It grants so much legitimacy, doesn't it? It's a shield. If a former president is hanging out with this guy, he must be okay.
Precisely.
And then the tech world. Bill Gates. This one always seems to surprise people.
Because he has that curated, nerdy philanthropist image.
Right.
Initially, he was just silent. Then later, he called his meetings with Epstein a mistake, said they were just dinners about global health fundraising.
But the leaked emails suggested a different story.
A very different story. Discussions about Russian women. And there were allegations in those emails about a sexually transmitted disease.
Right. The implication being that Epstein knew something private about Gates.
Something he could use, which, of course, the internet had a field day with.
The Microsoft viruses memes were everywhere.
It's dark humor, but it reflects that shock. It suggests Epstein wasn't just fundraising, he was collecting leverage.
So you have this web, this network. But where was it all happening? Let's talk about the machinery of the exploitation, because it was organized.
Yeah.
And the centerpiece was that island, Little St. James.
The billionaire's paradise.
Yeah.
From the air, white sand beaches, yachts. But for the survivors, it was a hub of horror.
And the victims. They weren't just random people he met, were they?
No, the targeting was calculated. They went after girls under 18, specifically from families that were struggling financially.
They preyed on vulnerability.
Exactly. And that brings us to the recruitment and to Ghislaine Maxwell. Looking at the documents, she was basically the CEO of the trafficking operation.
She was the daughter of that British media tycoon, Robert Maxwell.
Right. And she was the one who approached the girls. She used their financial struggles against them. She made them feel safe. She was a woman, sophisticated, a socialite. It was a psychological trap.
How did it work?
It was a multi-step process. First, lure them with gifts, cash, a taste of luxury. That's the grooming. Then, tell them they have a job.
Giving massages.
Exactly. Come give a massage, you'll make $200. For a struggling teenager, that's life-changing money. And slowly, those massages turned into sexual exploitation.
It's just sickening. And she turned it into a pyramid scheme.
That's the most insidious part. She did. The recruitment worked like a pyramid. They'd tell a girl, if you bring your friends, you get cash, you get a bonus.
So she turned the victims into recruiters.
It expanded the operation exponentially and kept her hands looking clean.
And then they get on the plane, the Lolita Express.
Epstein's private jet. I mean, think about the psychological impact. You're 17. You've never left your hometown. You're being flown on a private jet to a private island. It must feel like a dream.
That awe is part of the control.
And once they land, isolation. Complete isolation. The island was private property.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by water, miles from home, with no way to leave.
And this is where the blackmail theory really kicks in. The rumor that Epstein wasn't just doing this for fun, he was recording it.
According to Virginia Giuffre, while these powerful guests were exploiting minors, Epstein was recording everything. Hidden cameras everywhere, bedrooms, bathrooms.
He was collecting leverage.
Kompromat,
Yeah.
a Russian intelligence term for compromising material. If you have a tape of a CEO or a prince committing a felony, you own them.
They become a puppet.
Exactly.
But, and this is the big question, when the authorities raided his properties, no tapes.
They claimed they didn't find any master tapes. They found loose photos, hard drives, but not this. This library of ruin that was rumored to exist.
So does that mean it didn't exist?
Or does it mean it was removed? I mean, that raises a huge question.
Yeah.
Was that information withheld? Powerful people do not want everything made public.
It feels like there's just this massive gap between what we know and what actually existed.
And that's where justice goes to die.
Which brings us to the legal system, or the failure of it.
The failure is just staggering. The first complaint was filed way back in 2005. In 2008, he's sentenced, but it was a joke. People called it VIP justice.
He could leave jail during the day to go to work.
And just return at night to sleep. He had his own driver, his own security. I mean, you have to wonder if the people who negotiated that deal were compromised themselves.
Then we fast forward to 2019. He's rearrested. The Me Too movement has changed the world. This is it. He's in a federal cell.
This is when those images of the temple went viral. The blue and white stripes, the golden dome. Everyone wanted to know what was going on in there. The pressure was immense.
And then, suddenly, he's dead.
Suicide by bedsheet. That was the official ruling. But the circumstances were just Deeply suspicious.
The cameras were broken.
A statistical anomaly. The CCTV cameras facing his cell just happened to malfunction. The two guards on duty both reportedly fell asleep at the exact same time.
And he was supposed to be on suicide watch, wasn't he? After a previous attempt.
He should have been under intense watch, but he wasn't. They took him off it.
And the public just didn't buy it.
Not for a second. That's where Epstein didn't kill himself comes from. It's not just a meme, it's a rejection of the official narrative. The logic is simple. If he lived, he would have exposed too many powerful people.
Okay, so we have the corruption, the trafficking, the suspicious death. But now, let's get to the thing that broke the internet recently. The Baal controversy. This brings us right back to our hook.
This is so fascinating because it shows how quickly information can be misinterpreted now. When the Epstein files were made public, one specific document just caused a frenzy.
It was a financial transfer form from 2009.
Correct, a standard wire transfer. Epstein asking JP Morgan Chase to wire $1,000 to an account at Wachovia Bank.
But the beneficiary bank name field.
Yeah.
It looks strange.
It appeared to say Baal.name.
And people lost their minds. They immediately connected it to Baal, the ancient deity from the Old Testament.
The god of storms and fertility, and crucially, a god sometimes associated with child sacrifice in ancient mythology.
So the internet sleuths put two and two together.
Yeah.
The strange temple on the island, plus a legal document saying Baal.
Equals a satanic child sacrifice cult. It's a compelling narrative if you're looking for that pattern. It fits the horror movie script.
But there's a much more logical, technical explanation.
A much more mundane one.
Okay, so hit us with the reality check. What actually happened?
It's all about something called OCR, optical character recognition.
Explain that for us.
So when researchers were digitizing these documents in like 2025 and 2026, they were dealing with old, blurry faxes from 2009.
So low-resolution, smeary scans.
Exactly. They used modern software to scan the paper and turn the shapes of the letters into digital text. And because the original paper was so blurry, the software glitched.
Okay.
On a standard wire transfer form, that field asks for the beneficiary bank name. In this case, the bank was Wachovia.
So Wachovia got garbled.
Look at the word Wachovia, W-A-C-H. In a bad font, a blurry W and A can look like a B, the she can look like an L. The software just hallucinated.
So Wachovia became Baal.
The Baal.name was a digital misinterpretation, a scanner glitch, not a confession of devil worship.
That is, wow, anticlimactic, but it makes perfect sense.
It's a classic case of looking for a complicated evil when the reality is just a mundane error.
But there is always but that doesn't mean everything about this case is normal. The Baal thing was a glitch, but there are still some truly odd things here.
Absolutely. That temple on the island, we still don't really know what it was for. It had a strange locking door, but the mystery remains.
And then there's the Kiswa. This one just blew my mind when I read about it.
It is very strange, and it's verifiable. Reports claim Epstein acquired 3 pieces of the Kiswa,
Which is the sacred black cloth that covers the Kaaba in Mecca, for those who don't know.
one of the holiest artifacts in Islam. It's not something you can just, buy online.
Not at all. And Epstein had pieces of it flown from Saudi Arabia to his Florida property in 2017.
While he was a registered sex offender.
Yeah.
The idea that he could acquire such a significant religious artifact just shocked Muslim communities worldwide.
Why did he even want it?
There's no evidence he was religious. It seems like it was a trophy, a flex. Look what I can get. It speaks to his narcissism. He collected power, whether it was money, people, or holy relics.
It just adds to that aura of untouchability. But this leads us to the broader conspiracies that really distract from the real crimes. Things like QAnon.
Right, and the adrenochrome theory.
The idea that elites torture children to harvest adrenaline to stay young.
Specifically oxidized adrenaline. It's straight out of fiction. But we have to look at the hard science. Adrenochrome is a real chemical compound.
Huh?
But it is easily and cheaply synthesized in a lab. You can buy a vial of it for $50. It's used to stop bleeding. It has no rejuvenating properties.
So there's no need to harvest it from people.
There is absolutely no economic or scientific reason to harvest it from humans. It's a fantasy. It turns the villains into literal monsters like vampires.
And that's the danger, isn't it? These fantasies are just a distraction.
That is the critical point. When we focus on child-eating elites and magic chemicals and scanning errors, we are actually helping the criminals.
We get distracted from the boring legal reality of trafficking and blackmail.
Exactly. The headlines become about demons instead of the actual victims. Epstein's real crimes are legally established, they're documented. This sensationalism just buries the voices of the survivors.
So where are we now? Because the story didn't end with his death.
No, the political impact continues. Just recently, the UK Prime Minister's choice for US Ambassador Lord Mandelson had to deal with the fallout of his past ties to Epstein.
The radioactive half-life of this scandal is decades long, and the files are still being processed.
And more secrets will likely come out. But as we watch all this unfold, we need to remember who the real heroes are in this story.
It's not the internet theorists.
No. The credit for exposing this truth belongs to the survivors. The women, Virginia Giuffre, Sarah Ransom, so many others, who had the courage to speak up against a man who had presidents on speed dial.
Silence is what protects these crimes. By speaking, they broke the cycle.
They forced the world to look.
And that's really the takeaway. The reality of how money and power can delay and deny justice is evil enough on its own. We don't need to invent demons or misread glitches to understand the darkness of the Epstein case.
Well said. The truth is scary enough.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.